How's it going, everybody? JT here on behalf of the Ethfinance Daily General Discussion on our Ethereum and the EV Mavericks for hosting this amazing, momentous occasion for two reasons. The first one is we got Patricio on the call. Say hello to the world, my friend. Good to see you.
Hello, JT and everyone.
And the second big reason is this is our 100th episode of the Daily Doots podcast. And we're just so delighted to hit this milestone. We had a couple of technical glitches as we started the show today, but we're supposed to be live on more than one channel. So if you're the main party's here on Discord, but if you're watching, we're also on YouTube on the EV Mavericks channel. We've also got the EV Mavericks Twitter handle too. So, it's working so far. Good to go. I think we're on Twitch. So if you're new to Twitch, you can follow us. Rebranded an account on there for the EV Mavericks as well. We're in the process of getting our LinkedIn and our TikTok going, and we're just going to be broadcasting right out of our Ethereum on Reddit and joining the people out there on the podcast circuits. You can follow us on Apple. You can find us on Spotify, but right now you're finding us in Discord. And the cool thing is Patricio gave us an opportunity today to fill in on some nuggets here on the canvas he sent us. So we got a canvas here. If you want to log in, I'll put this in the Daily Doots podcast chat. You guys can start filling in some dots there. Apparently, we got a Maverick up here in the right-hand corner. So I don't know if we want to get started on that. We'll keep this alive for the duration of the show, and we've also got a POAP drop coming in too. So if you want a chance to grab a POAP from today's call, stick around. We'd love to have you get in on that action as well. But let's just get right into it. Patricio, what an absolute gem of a person. Everybody that I talked to about you has everything the same to say about you, and you're just one of the best spirits in the Ethereum landscape, and we're really damn honored that you would help us make our 100th episode is what it is.
Oh, the honor is mine. As you know, I rarely go to podcasts, and this felt like a great opportunity, and we really have a packed agenda.
Yeah, when he told me you rarely do podcasts, he's like, when have you seen me on a podcast last? And I was like, well, actually, we used to do the ETH Staker ones together. But you said it's been several years, and I blinked my eyes in the crypto world, and here we are. It really has been like 3 years probably since you've done a podcast. And well, we're just honored that you chose us, and we get a chance to talk to you and catch up on what's happening in your world. We've had the pleasure of meeting at least a couple of times in Denver. I'm assuming you're going there again this year.
I am in Denver right now.
You're in Denver right now. How many POAPs have you distributed?
I've been pretty low key because the weather has been somewhat hostile, like extremely hostile. Today we have like 2 feet of snow, and this week has been like freezing temperatures. But still, I expect to give away a lot on the upcoming 7 days. So if you are in Denver or coming to Denver, find me around to get a nice collectible.
Oh, I will be there on Wednesday. I'm driving in with 2 smokers in the back of a minivan all the way from Kansas City, driving in and setting up shop and cooking for a couple of parties. I think they're sold out by now, but at some point I will try to break away from that, or maybe you could break towards me. And I tell you what, I'll give you a plate of pulled pork and beans if you eat that sort of thing, and I'll take that POAP in exchange. How about that?
We are going to make it work somehow.
Oh, good. That warms my heart. So you've already been in Denver. How long have you been in Denver for?
Like a week or so, and this might be like my 20th time in Denver, so I'm pretty familiar with this chilling weather already.
Yeah, so it has been remarkably cold. Kansas City got 3 record low days in a row. Yesterday morning smashed the record by 8 degrees. Today we moved up all the way to a balmy -4 Fahrenheit, so that's good. But it's warming up. We're on the uptrend, and I know by the time I get there on Wednesday, everybody's going to be thawed out and ready to have some fun again. So I was gonna get into a series of questions. And if anybody has any questions, if you're out there on Twitter or YouTube and you're wanting to come into the Discord, you can find us. We got the link in the description. I'm pretty sure we're easy to find. Come on in. And we've got a Doots podcast channel located right above the stage, or you could just chat in the stage. We'll go from there. But I wanted to rattle off a few questions. And I always like to ask our guests, like, your earliest galvanizing moments, right? What before POAP, okay? And even before that, what do you consider one of the most galvanizing moments of your life that showed you that like crypto could do something beyond the ordinary?
Oh, that's a highlight. That's undisputed for me on relevance, which was the first time I got Bitcoin. I knew what Bitcoin was because I was a computer person and I had a superficial understanding of it. But when I bought my first Bitcoin, that I wasn't buying because I wanted to speculate or anything, I actually needed to pay for something that could only be bought in Bitcoin, and it wasn't drugs or anything. So I went to the Bitcoin embassy in Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires there was, and I think there still is, I haven't been for years, but there was a building in downtown that was called the Bitcoin Embassy, and it was like a co-working space that only hosted crypto companies. And when I say crypto companies, this is pretty much like Bitcoin companies, because we are talking about crypto in 2014. And I go to the Bitcoin Embassy, and not only they were all very welcoming, of course, because I was going to buy their product, so it's not too crazy that they were kind to me, but they were really kind. They got me up to speed. They got me a wallet. I give them cash, like cash out of my pocket. They give me the cryptocurrency. I walk out, and I was like, this technology, it's so disruptive, it's so superior than anything else we've seen. I need to work on this. And that's how I started. That's clearly the galvanizing moment of my attention for pivoting to crypto in 2014.
And it wasn't much longer after that when the smart contract platform by some kid named Vitalik invented basically in the same year and rolled out in 2015. How soon did you embrace the smart contract features of Ethereum in order to start building dApps?
It took me a long time because I'm a high school dropout, and learning these new concepts that were so abstract took me a pretty long time. Nothing around learning how this worked was easy. And I'm not ashamed to say, I mean, it's somewhat shameful, but it is the truth. Everything I thought I understood about blockchains and consensus and smart contracts for the first couple of years, it was wrong. I honestly got the things wrong, and I was preaching about them and trying to get my friends to buy cryptocurrency and learn about it. And I was pretty confused about what blockchains were really useful for. And sometimes when I see people these days on TV, on social media saying, yeah, we will use crypto for this and that, and they are wrong, I empathize with them because I was similarly naive or confused about what things were useful for in the context of blockchains. So although I bought my first Bitcoin like around 2014, I think it was only in 2016 that I started to have a somewhat solid ground on being able to explain what the blockchain was and what a programmable blockchain could do. So unfortunately, it was really slow. But you know what was good? It wasn't important or necessary to know what blockchains were useful for buying the assets. So I was very familiar with Poloniex, the exchange that we used to use at that time.
Yeah, best troll box in the world.
and I have managed to buy Ether, although I didn't understand what it was or what you could do with it. So that was a good way of getting my feet wet. And eventually I understood. I don't know, would have I studied Ethereum if I didn't have Ether? Probably much later in the game. Like the reason why I started studying Ethereum and Ethereum tech and dApps was because I had this much money on Ether. And for me, it was a huge amount of money because I didn't come from money. So it was like my life savings that were a very humble amount. And I was like, yeah, I need to understand this better so I know where I have put my money. So I guess if I didn't have Ether, I would have been a way later adopter.
You're so frugal because of your background. You're still on your first red jacket. It's immaculately clean. It's always well kept. Every time I see you in that beautiful. I was talking to B Smokes on the phone last night about the call today, and I was wanting to go find my own red jacket, but it's really hard to go out and shop for a red jacket. It's so iconic. And Patricia, don't feel bad about dropping out of school. Freshman algebra was my favorite class so much I took it twice, and junior college was the best 8 years of my life. That's who I understand. Like you're trying to.
Well, I just so you know, I dropped high school.
Oh yeah, no, I dropped.
I've never been like freshman is not a thing for me.
Don't worry, I failed in high school and in college. I mean, I'm 2 for 2. So I understand. And then at some point, life just, there's a grind of life where you're wanting to figure it out on your own terms in your own way. And I feel like so many people in this space exemplify that too. The real grit of, if I'm going to make this happen, I need to just teach myself how to do it because nothing's been invented like this before. So we're all it doesn't matter if you have a computer programming background or not. It's kind of like an open book for people that are just willing to put in the time and make something happen. So fast forward then, what was your first implementation of a smart contract? Was there anything before POAP?
Minimal. There were minimal implementations. One that I remember, and it was also galvanizing, like it helped me understand why this was powerful. So when I got into cryptocurrency, as much as I found the technology exciting, I needed to make money somehow. So I was buying and selling lots of shitcoins or trying to figure out what to do. And it was like being in the trenches today, but the trenches were different and we were somewhat optimistic about what you could do with the coins. And there is one coin that I buy called DCX from the DCX DAO company out of Singapore. Yeah, this is known, but see what happened. And if you bought a huge amount, like $20,000 worth of them, they give you a special other token that used to be called a badge or something. And it was pretty stupid in hindsight. But I had one of those and it was somewhat special and there were only a handful, but you couldn't sell them on exchange because the exchanges only listed the major coins. And I wanted to get rid of them because I kind of rather have some more money instead of that stupid kind of NFT-like token. It wasn't an NFT as we know them today, but it was kind of an NFT, like it wasn't a fungible token. And I started poking in Reddit, like Reddit was my home for a very long time, and it kind of continues to be, although I'm very low-key, Reddit might be the social network that I use the most. And I post in Reddit, and someone offered some money to me, and we asked each other, okay, how can we do this transaction? We are both anons, like I don't know who he was and he didn't know who I was. And the transaction was like 20 Ether worth. It was 20 Ether at like $50 Ether, which was still a significant amount of money. And I ask around and he asks around and someone comes up like, couldn't we do a smart contract? And we are like, yes, supposedly this is what smart contracts do, right? But neither of us knew jack shit about how to actually do a smart contract. So we continue poking around in Discord, and there's a Discord, Reddit, not Discord. Discord wasn't a thing in 2016 when this happened. And we found a legend of Reddit and Ethereum, and some of you, I'm sure, know him, which is a guy that lives in Sydney. His nickname is Boki Puba or something. And Boki was a total nerd. And he was a software developer, and he was extremely active on Reddit. And he's also known for being the first person to mint a CryptoPunk. Because when CryptoPunks dropped on Reddit, he was plugged to it, and he was the first CryptoPunk known founder that has minted. So the guy is like, yeah, I could do a smart contract for you. So he does the coding. I don't know how he does it. It's black magic for me. It kind of remains black magic up to these days. But he does the thing. And we both send our assets, and somehow then we get the other asset in exchange, and it all works out trustlessly and seamlessly. And that was again like, yeah, this is not all vaporware, which is how it felt. It actually does things that couldn't be done with any other technology. So pre-POAP, I already had some like magical moments like that one.
And then when did POAP start?
It's very hard to pinpoint the exact point in time because collecting things for me, and maybe I should do a quick intro of what's POAP, or do we assume that everyone knows?
No, let's do it. Let's do it because you never know who's new. There's always new people.
Yeah, so POAP, it's an Ethereum product, a platform, a dApp, you can call it however you want. And there will be a POAP for attendees of this call. I will drop it soon, so stay tuned. And the POAP is on screen now. I think you could see it. And POAP is a product based on Ethereum for minting digital collectibles. These are items that you mint when you do something or you go somewhere and you meet someone, like different life events. And it could be a graduation ceremony, coming to December, listening to this show, something that you have that you know it happens at a point in time in a collective experience. And this creates a record on the blockchain that's an NFT. So it lives forever and it's immutable and you have full ownership of it. It has lots of great qualities that can only be provided with blockchains. And we call those little items POAPs. And the question was, when I started with POAP, and it's not so obvious to find the exact date because I've been a collector of different things like physical items since my early teenage years. So the idea of having a system for having digital collectibles was in the back of my mind before I knew crypto. Now, in 2018, after CryptoKitties and a couple more things get on the spotlight, I figured we could have a system based on smart contracts that let anyone create these collectibles when something happens that they consider relevant. So I would say the idea started to crystallize on something with a name in 2018. And then the milestone that it's clearly on a calendar, it's Valentine's Day of 2019.
Really?
When we launched. And that now it's on a blockchain, and you can see the people that were around our team on December in 2019. And that's like the official birthday of POAP, which, by the way, has just made like 6 years old.
This is incredible. I knew it had to have been at least 5 years old, but it's actually over 6 years old. You know, if you look across the crypto landscape at the number of companies that have been around for longer than 5 years, you start to really get down to a pretty. It's a small list, you know.
I don't think it's more than a handful. On the Ethereum ecosystem, when we launched, we have maybe 10 dApps, like Maker, and Maker didn't launch, and most are dead now, like Augur or Dharma. Most of them have died or been acquired. It's crazy. Sometimes it makes me be scared because it's like, we made it pretty long. How long? Although we are very enthusiastic and we are really optimistic about the future, but it's a big thing.
That's incredible, man. Do you have any idea? I always imagine like Patricio having, like, you know how they have the national debt clock on the wall on Wall Street or wherever it is. Do you have like a clock for POAPs that shows like the number of POAPs that have been produced?
Not only we have that, and in the nice. In the POAP office in Buenos Aires, we have a board like those. I think they are called flip-flop. That are like mechanical, like in airports and train stations.
Oh,
yeah. Clack, 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 clack.
Yeah.
And we have one of those. And right now we are on the 7 million POAP range. But our ambition, it's orders of magnitude greater numbers than that.
Wow, that's really cool. I just I got my Denver POAP ready. So I will say the experience I had the first time I made a POAP versus now, it's like, just it's
gotten better.
It's so nice, like, because I you know, I tend to trip over my own shoelaces on a daily basis. Don't, just you've seen that unfold before. But the experience I had minting my POAPs was literally just a few clicks to get 100 of them, and the turnaround time was almost instantaneous. Because I think the big driving point I feel like POAP wants is limited, and I like that, because then you really, like, if you go to, let me back up, when you go make your POAP, be very specific about the purpose, be specific about the time frame, and just do 100 and do that. And your experience is so quick. It's very, very easy to do. I was going to ask you, I don't know if you wanted to riff on that at all, but I was going to ask you what other products, if any, are out there under the POAP umbrella that people may not know about.
There's a bunch. POAP exists for helping people preserve their memories, helping them remember they were somewhere, and getting them an item they can anchor their memories to a situation. And the little NFTs we do these days, this little circle that many of you know and love, are only one angle of it. Because the circles help for remembering something, but we figured there could be more things we do. So for example, we now have POAP Moments, and I think we are going to rename it to POAP Media, which is a product for attaching different pieces of media, like pictures, videos, audio, text, to a POAP that exists. And it's on the screen, right? This is very convenient. So you see, for example, you are scrolling over different Ethereum conferences, and the circle in the middle, it's the POAP, and then you have lots of pictures that people have uploaded. And in these days, you can open any of them, like it says 75 moments. That's a POAP. Yeah.
Okay.
And because in these days where we have abundance of media, like anyone can take pictures, even AI can create unlimited amount of media, the challenge is how to keep them indexed, how to find it. Like if you want to find a picture of Burning Man of 2019, you can be sure that there were thousands of pictures taken, but who the hell are they? Like, how do you find a picture that someone has taken 6 years ago? So this concept of POAP media helps people associate media with POAPs that are canonical. So there's only one POAP of East Denver, like the officially, or that's HCC, so that's the official HCC POAP, and that's where the pictures go. So this is another one that, it's one of the satellite products in the POAP ecosystem, and there are still more. And I think one that's useful to highlight now is POAP Home. POAP Home is a new mobile app that we released last year. POAP had mobile apps for years, like since nearly the beginning, but they were somewhat basic. There weren't many things you could do with them. Now, the new version of POAP Home, the new version of the POAP app, which is called POAP Home, and it's available on the App Store and the Play Store, it's crowded with functionality, and there's more coming. And I think this is a good time for dropping the POAP of this podcast, which can only be minted in POAP Home. So let's do that. Get your cell phones ready. Open the POAP Home app. If you don't have it, get it on the App Store. It's free. It's really easy to install and use. And once you are there and you have entered your collection with your DNS or address or email, you will go to the bottom right corner that says Mint. Are you following with me, Chaiti?
Yeah.
Good. And do Mint. Enter secret word. And type the secret word Doots. DDDOOTS. Continue. Let's see if this works out. It seems to be working. And if you can see my video, this is the POAP being minted right now. The cats are punching on it. Are your cats punching too? Right? As your phone vibrates every time they hit it.
That's really cool. I noticed that haptic. Like that's such a subtle. Right. That's such a subtle thing to add into an app that really makes the experience.
Why. Check the animation. See the cats banging the anvil with a hammer. That's because we want people to understand that this is not a shitty picture that they got. I mean, it's also a shitty picture, but
No,
because
man, it's
mint on a
Patricio. That
blockchain.
ain't shitty. That's a
Yeah, but if you compare it with another collectible, like one collectible that you could get from Facebook or Google, the difference is that this has been etched on a blockchain and it's gonna be there forever. So that's why we make this haptic and the animation. So those that aren't experts or may not understand what's going on in the background, they still get a little feeling that this is more than a little icon or badge that they got because they jumped through a little hoops. And by the way, this POAP, it's only going to be available until this show finishes, like in half an hour or so.
Okay.
If you're listening this and you really want this POAP, you can still send me a message on Discord or Twitter, and maybe I give you one. But the concept is, for getting this POAP, you have to listen this show.
I love it. So once again, it's POAP home, and then mint, and then it's the keyword is Doots. DOOTS, correct?
Yes.
All right. So we got 33 people watching on X. We got a few people watching on the YouTube, several people in Discord. And yeah, it's just absolutely such a cool thing. I've always enjoyed it. Last night when I was, I made, I'm not even kidding, probably about 5 pounds of barbecue rub for Denver. And I packed my IYK disc. I have one of those big IYK discs, and I loaded my POAP on that, so it'll be a physical. And that's the cool thing with that app too, is you can do the NFC stuff with the different tags and stickers. But I'm such a boomer. I've got this thing that basically looks like the size of a small frisbee.
We are doing way nicer these days.
Yeah.
But that's an OG.
Yeah.
Let's see if I think I have one of the new discs handy. Let me.
Yeah, mine's like 6 inches.
myself.
Like I should hang it on a chain like Flava Flav. Yeah, that's so cool.
This is the new one. But yeah, yours is the OG. I like that too.
Yeah, it is the OG. It's the original. Like I remember when they first came out, I'm like, I have to have that, and I still use it every year. But it takes a lot of space in my pocket. But I still like it. It's just because it's a conversation piece when people are like, oh my God, I haven't seen one of those in like 4 years, you know?
And then they get a collectible from you.
Yeah. And it's cool. I got my 100 POAPs ready to roll. This is so cool. I wanted to go back a couple more questions. Do you have any favorite, POAP moments in real life? I've got one, but I want to hear what yours is.
So for a few years, I've been doing traditional POAP every month. So my Patricio POAP collection has already nearly 40 different POAPs.
Wow.
There were many encounters of collectors of my POAP that were pretty great. I wouldn't want to identify one specifically, so it's not so clear that I have favorites. And I don't even have favorites. I like them all. But people coming to me in my POAP because it's a collectible they want to have, it's a great moment for me. So I would say that's the highlight of the many POAPs, because, I have minted and I have helped people mint thousands of POAPs by now. There's over 5,000 people that have gotten at least one POAP of mine. So it's a huge amount, but still, when someone comes to get one POAP for their collections of mine, that's pretty nice for me.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite moments. I believe I was in ETH Denver. I think it was the first ETH Denver. It was the first conference I've ever been to, because I as you know,
I think I know when you're talking about. This was on the Sports Castle, the older building.
Yes, that's exactly right. You remember that too.
Yeah. I remember when we met, this was there was like a slope. The floor was in an angle that because there was a ramp or something.
Yep. It was it had to have been like an old factory, or it was an old sports memorabilia store or something.
Well, I can say that was my favorite POAP mint.
Oh, really?
The one that I made you mint when you met me.
Yeah, dude. I was like, because you knew there was going to be a big hug coming, man. I'm serious. I know this is a bit of a bromance, but I remember that. And I think there was a couple of other like notable people. We just happened to be around each other, I'm in awe of you, and like I literally think it might have been like Preston Van Loon or David Hoffman or somebody like that, and it was
That
like
makes sense.
I just remember it was like the three of us, and we were swapping POAPs and I was like, I really see the value and the purpose of minting memories, so to speak, because
Right.
it's still in my collection. But you're the king, though, man. You hand out those embroidered patches. It's like, holy shit, that's some next level stuff. I just really, I don't know. Those moments are memorable for me. And also just an online memory of POAP was like during those. It was like during the beacon chain calls or some of the testnet dev rollout stuff of modernizing the blockchain and the canvases, and just seeing hundreds of people dotting, like it just looked like the screen was alive with the amount of ink going on and people fighting for space on a digital canvas. And when it was all done, it like sealed itself like a time capsule. That kind of stuff is such a unique use of the blockchain. It's just, there's nothing like it. I think that's sometimes in these later years, we tend to forget all the cool stuff that you're able to do on Ethereum that, you just wouldn't have been able to do in any other type of format. Like the blockchain really seals the deal on this stuff. And I don't know, it's all really very satisfying. I think that's a good word to describe what POAP means to me. It's just very satisfying. It's like touching the digital in a way.
This is a good KPI for our success tracking. When we think, is this product successful or not, we want them not just be satisfying, but actually make people happy. And it typically works. Once you are up to speed with POAP is a pretty reliable source of happiness. People get happy when they get a new one. They get happy when they browse their older ones. So this is how it's meant to work. So it's good that you validate it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you guys measure happiness in like a certain, in like a quantifiable way, like a metric, or what do you guys? What kind of key metrics do you put this POAP?
We have, it's not exactly quantifiable, but there is a bucket which we call quality drops. And those are drops that people consider like precious memories. So when someone, it happened a lot, especially our enterprise customers, challenge the value proposition of POAP, and they say, why would I use POAP? Why would I pay POAP an extra? Because using POAP costs money, when I could mint my NFT in Polygon or Base or any other free network or extremely cheap network, if after all it's an NFT. And we are like, yeah, technically it might very well be correct that they are all ERC-721s, but the implementation of ours make people happier, and they make people feel they got a precious collectible. And the appreciation of people is not exactly how you could measure, but if you have a nice necklace with precious stones, it's likely to be better appreciated than a necklace made of silly stones like rolling stones that you don't care about. So why people appreciate POAPs more than random NFTs? It's a whole discussion, but clearly there is a difference. So how we track that? This category we call quality drops are typically things like weddings or graduation ceremonies or life-changing opportunities. And it could also be less important events like Twitter Spaces and such. Ultimately, the quantifiable metric that could be tracked is how it makes people feel. And if people feel sincerely happier when they see our digital collectible, that's what makes a drop being part of the quality bucket.
Yeah, well said. Hey, arutokintumi.eth says, Patricio, we love you on Twitter. So there you go.
Nice.
Shout out. And if you're following along on X or TikTok or YouTube, just remember, if you've got the POAP Home app, you can open that up. You can click Mint in the bottom right-hand corner. And
and let me show you something fun.
Sure.
You had open the POAP gallery page where we could see all the mints. I've seen it on your screen before. And I was tracking it, and I saw the first person to mint this event's POAP. It's one of our most passionate collectors, a guy from Madison, Wisconsin, that I'm sure most of you know, James Carley. And James has over 1,100 POAPs that he's been collected since, let's see when he got his first one, since June of 2020, so mid-pandemic. And I think this is a good example of how we quantify the happiness we create. Probably not the full 1,000 of them, but I'm sure that some POAPs of James make him feel like, yeah, this makes me happy. And this is what we are after. We don't want to mint millions of silly POAPs that nobody cares about. We rather mint only a handful that are life-changing for the collectors.
So I think you said James Carnley, right? Is it James Carn?
Yeah, James. We've had him on the podcast before.
I'm looking up his ENS here. I think he has a dot.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, but it's not there.
It's not Carnelli. It's Carnley. You have the L and E backwards.
Yeah, but that search box is for drops. So in that one, just type Doots.
I gave up. James.
Type Doots. No, in that box.
Oh, just type Doots. Okay, and then we can get there. Okay, thank you. Wow,
and
19.
The first one.
In the first one.
And go to the very bottom.
There he is, James Carnley. He's in fact, one of the ETH Denver's, we broadcast a Doots episode out of his Airbnb. He's been like Logri was saying, he's been a podcast guest before. We need to get him back on. He was, remind me again, his project was kind of like...
it's basically he's trying to decentralize the front end layer, right?
Yeah.
So because so many of the hacks that happen are on the front end layer where you change the UI and then you get someone to sign a malicious message, or you get things where like Tornado Cash's UI is pulled, and the developers for it are arrested. And if you want to have decentralized apps and have resilient infrastructure, you need to decentralize the UI at some point. And that's his project.
Beyond collecting, dude's a legend. Look at this. June of 2020 was a bankless POAP. I want to see. I know he's got.
What I think is interesting from, like, if I look at POAP from an investor's perspective, I see it completely differently than Patricio. I view it as it's part of a sort of multi-headed decentralized identity system where we have it as a source.
It can be both.
Of course it can, but if you like, okay, Bitcoin spends a lot of electricity every year, basically to achieve Sybil resistance. Tens of billions of dollars, right? And the outcome of all the hashing is just Sybil resistance. Imagine if that much value went into POAP, right? And
give us a little time.
I'm just saying, like, you view it as, we want to have these passionate moments for people. We want to give collectors joy and enjoyment. We want to, go around and have everyone meet Patricio at all the conferences, and he wears these bright clothes, and he's always got a smile, and he's always very, warm. And your mission, your personal mission, seems to be to spread joy. But if I was to look at it from a technology and impact perspective, the maximum impact is really on the Sybil resistance and decentralized identity side of things, which is kind of downplayed by your presentation of it, which is
but this is by design. You're right. I wouldn't dispute anything of your interpretation of the things you could do with POAP and such. And it is not lost on us, the value on Sybil resistance. What happened, the reason why we decided to downplay, because on the early days, POAP used to be a super nerdy product, like the Sybil resistance was our main value proposition, and this is why we used to call it proof of attendance protocol. Now we just say POAP, and we don't even talk about proofs. It's because everything we build is composable. and anyone can use our data sets and pull the data from the network and build APIs and such. And whenever civil resistance becomes higher stakes, and it is happening, and AI is accelerating this. Like civil resistance before AI was an academic concept, and maybe there were some situations on which it was important, but in not too long, when there are available to everyone AI tools that let you impersonate everyone, civil resistance is going to become a fundamental tool, like the tools that offer civil resistance, civil attack resistance, will become a fundamental tool, and some of them will be based on POAP. There will be a plugin that you have in Zoom that will make you sign a little message, and if the message is signed by an account that holds an NFT that I have given you, I will be able to know, okay, I'm very likely talking to who I am expecting to
I
talk,
view it
and
kind
not
of like
to an
credit
AI.
score, right? There's going to be like independent people that will roll up data from the chain, including POAPs and your Gitcoin passport score and like your how
And
much capital you have on there and these other things. And they're going to roll it up into something like your credit score that says what your humanness is or what your forgery resistance score is or whatever. And then different apps will interpret these kind of different identity bureau values.
Well, hopefully it's going to be much better than the existing credit scores.
Well, the difference would just be
similar to-
anyone's going to be free to use or disregard those values, but there will be, I think, competing solutions that do a roll up of all of the data about your address or about your connection in order to basically assign a humanness to you. Because as you said,
Logris.
otherwise the cost of misinformation is plummeting.
Are you familiar with Talon Protocol?
Yes.
Oh yeah, there's one of the teams that's from Argentina too.
Yeah, that's right. They are Argentinian. I mean, obviously, their score is more focused on building. Actually, they've just launched a V, or they are launching a V2 in which the V1 was more socially oriented, and now the V2 has a stronger emphasis on GitHub contributions, smart contract deployments, and so it is more representative as a builder score rather than just a social score.
I mean,
But
I've
it
heard
would
of degen
certainly-
scores. As I said, there's a Gitcoin passport, movement, and I've seen a variety of these, but I haven't seen any take off in a major fundamental infrastructure way. And we really need that. Like at some point, we need to get to a point where my browser doesn't render information that doesn't have a provenance trail trackable to a human. Right? We need to get down to that level of there's an attestation that goes back to either an institution or a human. So it's not just made up information that's being used to monetize or steer my attention or harm or extract value from me in some way. You want to at some point, in order to fight the misinformation as the cost of it plummets, we need a effective filter for low lift information, low cost misinformation. So I can get down to something that's a real signal and filter out AI generated noise. And we need a decentralized identity system for that. And I think POAP's a leading contender to seize that.
And there was someone in our Twitter that had made the classical meme of the Trojan horse. And it was like, yeah, people believe that they are getting little collectibles to remember what they were. What they're actually doing is building an indisputable set of things they've done that will be used for creating their main identity identifier. And we like it. We don't play it because just explaining digital collectibles, it's already a pretty steep curve for whoever doesn't know anything. So going into a deeper layer of identity and decentralized identifiers, it's just too hard. So we just want to say they are little collectibles that are immutable because we use the glossary. Like in POAP, we have a glossary and we enforce it, and we require our partners to enforce it. So the idea is that we talk about digital collectibles and life experiences and things that make you happy, but when you learn about that, you are also learning about immutability and trustlessness and consensus and maybe smart contracts. So hopefully these different visions converge into the same worldview.
Yeah, it's almost like accidentally awesome security wrapped up in a hug, like it gets people, it grabs people in, without realizing like the implications of it. I think Logri's point was like, and then your approach is like the user experience, and then we can really unpackage why this is actually really special for a lot of reasons.
He says Trojan horse, but that implies a certain like nefarious attack vector, right? When it's like his Trojan horse just like comes out and there's a bunch of hugs inside, like he's not trying. No, there's no nefarious attack vector here. He's just trying to give you like this beautiful collectible and something you feel something about, and then it turns out that later that gives you a forge resistance score that lets you, join or participate in certain organizations, or becomes useful to help you get a job or something later. It's something that can be used to establish trust between people, and trust is a difficult to quantify but very important thing.
There was a well, I was just going to mention real quick I remember a use case that popped up. It was like people that were holding the POAP were able to get a certain like credential as a result, or an airdrop eligibility. If you're holding this particular POAP, this transaction hash, for lack of a better word, in your wallet, you were eligible for X, Y, and Z. I thought that was really novel.
A simple example of that is every one of the art canvases, right? You have to have a POAP, and then it's used as authorization for that. And what can you do with that? Well, you can project your message. Your community can kind of advertise yourself, or you can push whatever message you want. So that authorization has value insofar as you're able to affect the attention of other people and spread your message, right?
Right.
Patricio, you were saying?
Before we wrapped up, I would like to repeat how to get the POAP of this call once again.
Sure.
Or maybe you could do it for me.
No, let's hear it in your own words. I love it.
If you were listening, you are entitled to get a digital collectible to remember that you were on this show. This digital collectible can only be minted with our mobile app. This is as a protection, so you can only get one, and JT has it on the screen now.
POAP Home.
The way you mint it, you open POAP Home, you tap on the mint button on the bottom right corner, you input Doots, as in the Weekly Doots, DOOTS, tap on continue, and that's how you get this POAP. Now, if you have found any issue or it doesn't mint or anything, you can still talk to me. Our product is not bulletproof. Building blockchain applications, it's a suicidal mission, as the Bybit people. So bear with us if something doesn't work, but I think it will.
I had just a general question, considering you're from Argentina. The president of Argentina has been in the news not once but twice over the last week or so as a representative for the entire country of Argentina. Patricio, what the hell's going on down there?
Oh, the shortest way of presenting what's going on for me would be there are reasons to be optimistic. Good things seems to be cooking for all of us Argentinians, and not just Argentinians, to be happy. We had an extremely unfortunate event on which our president has made a couple mistakes on who he trusted and what he talked about. And that's been a disaster that has many of us very upset and disappointed with different things. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, because this is not meant to be a secret, the president of Argentina, it's an extremely disruptive person, Javier Milei. He doesn't look like any other president in the world. Like he's completely insane. And that's good and bad for different reasons. I have voted for him, and I continue to be optimistic about his ability to drive the country. But the guy, he's on his 50s, and he doesn't get blockchain in practice. Like maybe he knows what you could do with them and a thing or two, but he was tricked. And he posted on Twitter an extremely misleading message about an investment. And it was a Solana shitcoin, like typical meme coins. And it was a disaster. And as most meme coins, it racked a few hours after it launched and all the liquidity was drained. And there were tens of millions of dollars that were stolen. I mean, I'm not sure if stolen is right because people knew what they were signing up for, but it was a disaster, and that had created a huge ripple effect across media. But a few days after, he had an exchange on Twitter with Vitalik Buterin about the possibility of doing DevConnect in Buenos Aires, and that has many of us really excited because Buenos Aires has been a candidate for hosting a large globally scale Ethereum event for many years, and it couldn't happen for always there was one reason, but it does look like this is the closest we ever been for having a large Ethereum event in Buenos Aires, and we hope it will happen later this year.
That's a long ways to drive with my smokers, but maybe I'll try to get down there.
I think for this opportunity, you should just relax and be on the other side of the table and let us feed you.
I had the great pleasure of hosting Mariano Conti, and I know he's from your neck of the woods, and he did say I'm pretty good at barbecue, but the Argentinians.
He's our resident expert in barbecuing.
Yeah, I know. I've seen him spit before, man. I listen. Right. I'd sit across that table all day.
He has personally invited you down there. You can actually go sit across that table.
I know. I need to do it. I think if we get it's a DevConnect conference, I believe is what Vitalik was mentioning. I could be wrong on that. That is so cool, and I really hope that comes to fruition. I'm always inspired by people down in Latin America and the struggles of just monetary stability and just life in general. I mean, you guys are cut from a different cloth of grit, and I just really admire the gusto and the just the fortitude to get it going. You guys are really building stuff down there and have been for a long time. You had a Bitcoin embassy in Buenos Aires, you said, right? So, I mean, that tells you something.
Well, hopefully what many of us want to believe, and the younger people, hopefully we are out of the dark period that we've been for the past 50 years. And with this new administration, there are some signals that things are getting better. It's not particularly pleasant to be identified as the person that comes from the shitty country that you have to fight for your survival every day. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is what it is, so it doesn't offend me, it doesn't offend any of us. But I wish the next generation of Argentinians has other things to showcase and not just having a tough upbringing.
You're doing it. Yeah, that was I was trying to make that point. It's like there's products coming out of Argentina that, the Bitcoin embassy was down there in 2014. That's it. Like Argentina comes up quite a bit in terms of like blockchain stuff. And I think
certainly blockchain tech has given lots of prosperity in business, commerce, and finance to Argentina. I know many businesses that couldn't, like many successful, thriving Argentinian companies that couldn't have existed without blockchains, and not necessarily like blockchain companies, traditional companies that use blockchain rails.
Mm-hmm. What are some other examples people may not know of that are thriving down there in that vein?
So Argentina has plenty of blockchain teams. On the Ethereum ecosystem, one of the most respected ones, if not the most, is Open Zeppelin. Open Zeppelin has been the cradle for many of the best auditors and researchers and software developers. And MakerDAO had a significant operation in Argentina as well. So did Flashbots. Actually, many Argentinians are pretty low key. Maybe, for example, for security, safety, or even tax reasons. But out of all the major Ethereum projects, it's really hard to not find some Argentinians in it. And there was one event, I don't know if it was ETH Denver or HCC, that we've done like an Argentinian party, and it was hundreds of us.
Oh, wow. That's great. I don't know if there's any other questions from the chat, or is there anything on the horizon you want to let people know about, Patricio?
That I want to let them know?
Yeah, on the is there any
what
future
should be excited
releases?
about
Oh.
the roadmap? And the last
Yeah.
question usually. Okay, go ahead.
So POAP is a 40 people team.
40.
Nobody's wasting time. Yeah, it's a pretty big team, and we are shipping a lot. We have a pretty exciting lineup for Ethdenver stuff, and we are also working on a pretty exciting lineup for HCC. So there are more things cooking that what I can quickly present.
Sure.
My advice is to follow us in social media, like in Twitter and we have a Telegram channel, because we expect to be releasing things on a cadence like every month, and we need all the support we can get. What POAP needs the most these days, it's collectors telling their relatives and acquaintances and people around them why getting these collectibles is nice. That's the thing we need the most, so we can use all the help we can get about that. And of course, if you're on Ethdenver, find me around. We expect to entertain you a lot.
When you do a launch, you should drop by the Ethereum subreddit and just make a post that says, hey, here's what we just launched. Here's a new feature. Come try it out. Launch a POAP that day for like your early adopter set of people. And I'm sure you'll get some couple hundred people there.
Our representative on the Reddit and the subreddits, it's Superfizz. He's typically a very efficient and loud talking head of what we ship. But I hear you. Maybe I should show up in person myself.
He's not pushy in that way. And mostly his priority is the health of the Ethereum network. So I see him talk about like staking clients and the importance of decentralization. And those are his main topics. I rarely see him drop by with a message about what POAP has recently launched. And with a team of 40, I'm sure you're launching many things I'm not aware of.
Right.
So I'd love to see you drop by and just say, hey, we just launched this. Here's a POAP for early adopters. Right, it'll be up for the next 24 hours. Come in with this POAP and try this new feature that's authorized by this POAP, right?
All right. I'm not sure this is public or if I'm making a mistake by leaking this, but Hani Abu, who's one of the producers of this show,
he's wonderful,
has been working on a POAP for people that have been doing certain. I don't know how much he wants this to be leaked. But there's cool stuff happening for regulars of Reddit around the corner.
Well, I'd love to help you more.
Yeah, if Hani is online, maybe he wants to leak something.
Hani, do you want to pull the trigger on this? Do you want to jump on stage? I'm going to defer to Hani if he's able to.
He's saying he can't do audio, but just stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Reddit, it's a good bucket of adoption for us, and we will do fun stuff.
Yeah. The semi-alpha is it's good to be a duder.
Right.
It's good to be on that Doots list. We'll just leave it at that. Patricio, my man, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I can't believe I'm going to see you in less than a week. Hopefully with some greasy fingers and a big hug and get a bite in you and get your POAP from you.
I wonder if you could attach more metadata to the POAPs. Like if you could add the Doot score as metadata the POAPs refer to. So if you look it up, right, it could be an off-chain cache, but it doesn't have to necessarily be part of the NFT. But if it linked to an off-chain cache, and then when you viewed the POAP on the website, it would enrich.
Well, this is what you are
NFT.
supposed to do with moments. For us, it would be just like a plain text moment.
Yeah, so get your plain text moment for our Doot score. So when you get that Doot or POAP that says you have at least one, then it auto updates for however many you have when you're viewing your collection.
There might be some very close implementation of this in the near future, hopefully.
Yeah, well, I hope I tickle your brain. That's all.
Yeah, really.
It's been a pleasure.
It's really, really cool. This is, we got, looks like 73, 74 people watching on X right now. If you guys leave comments, it'll populate up on the screen. Patricio, we're going to move on to the second half of our show. You're welcome to hang out unless you have to go on to a meeting or whatever, but this is the part of the show where I read Reddit, so you don't have to. We have our daily Doots that get aggregated by by Tricky Troll, and then we have what are called the Weekly Doots, which is a weekly roundup of the best from the Ethfinance Daily General Discussion on Reddit. And as always, I never read these out ahead of time. Hani Abu's given us a little bit of a refresh on the website here too at dailydoots.com. You can follow along if you want. These two, yeah.
I love it, but it's actually true that I have a meeting coming up, so this is a good opportunity for me to step down. But I still want to be really thankful for putting this show together, for hosting it, for the 10 people that I see have worked on the production, for this to work in 10 different channels with the smoothness it works. So this is all very nice. Your work is deeply appreciated, and I can't wait to be back again one day in the future with nicer stuff.
Thank you so much.
200.
Yeah, we'll see you, Patricio.
200 could be a good opportunity.
Hey, thanks for being a part of our 100th episode, man. It means the world to us. And big hugs from Kansas City.
Stay in touch. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, man. Very cool. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Well, there we go. Patricio Worthalter of POAP.xyz hanging out with us today. Thanks again. All right, we're going to move straight over to the Daily Doots website, dailydoots.com. There's quite a bit of a change up here in the look and feel of it. Hani Abu is working on this. It's a work in progress, but boy, howdy, it's going to be much more thorough and complete. I went ahead and refresh the page here. He said it's currently under development. You can ping Hani Abu with any feedback and maybe have. And we've got the new testing canvas here for POAP. If you guys want to pencil in some stuff, there's a link right there at the top of the page. And we're going to go right into this week's top 10. Set one less at 105, 696 at 111. Hani Abu tied at 111. Crypto currency at 112. Ethical trade at 116. And Turkey Troll at 142. The man, the myth, not so much the legend, always has been the legend. Harag, 160, climbing up. I think he had a double doot this week. Benito 2030 at 165. Logri the Bard climbing up. He had a double doot this week as well at 176. And Super Fizz still sits atop the leaderboard at 219. We got 1,156 total duders. Wow, updated weekly. Look at all these updated events. We're going to start using this website instead of putting the calendar on the daily, the Reddit, Ethfinance Daily at the top. We're going to host the calendar here. This will be ongoing, updated. And so we are going to change the outgoing daily message just to clean things up a little bit. All right, and scrolling on down. And our daily threads, here we go. We have the list of all these daily threads. How cool is that? How cool is that? If we skip on down here to the podcast, you can see it's been embedded. And looks like we're ready now. Here we go. Morning roundup. We have Timbuck9 chimes in. Ethereum, Frank the Tank, 2762.95 on the price. Uses Big Video at 3.649 million Ethereum subscribed. That's up 1,283 members since last week. And Suspicious Concern says, you had me at ETH. Very good. Weekly haiku courtesy of JS Tears. Blockchain Arena. Meme coining Argentina. Next come subpoena. How does he do it? JS Tears. How does he do it? Jeez. Stats with Dr. ETH. He's got the price and supply. At that time he posted this was before the Bybit hack was 28.33. Looks like total inflation since merge is up 300s. And the total ETF flow, $3,166 million. Awesome. Very good. Ship post of the week, courtesy of Logri the Bard. For my cake day, I give you a limerick. Ooh, I remember this. It's so good. There once was a bard on Ethereum who held ETH through market delirium. They did not complain about the crab market pain, but instead expanded their cranium. Very good. Excellent job. Ship post of the week, Logri the Bard. And user Someday It's Dark comments on some confusion floating around about validators. Someday It's Dark is a duder number 26. There is some confusion floating about as to why too many validators are bad. Currently, if we hit around 2.1 million validators, Ethereum, the network, will fail to finalize. It's an issue of network traffic and the time it takes to aggregate all the signatures. EIP 7514 was implemented to buy us time until we could do something about it. EIP 7251 is that something. Its purpose is not to simply to allow for compounding of validator rewards, but to reduce the network traffic by allowing large operators to effectively consolidate 64 validators into one. Here's a nice read on the issue if you're interested, and that is on medium.com. There is the additional concern that that additional staking will further decrease rewards per ETH staked and increase inflation. And there are talks of trying to address this, but it's not a critical, the network will fail to finalize issue. Thank you so much. Someday it's dark. User Evil Jordan climbing up has a not so evil plan for the community. Evil Jordan's been around for quite a while. Duder number 8. For those of you worried about the state of Ethereum in general, I highly suggest you get involved somehow, other than just watching the price. I'm not new to this, but I spent the day participating in the ephemery testnet cycling, which led me working on some other tooling for my testnet staking setup, which led to questions and conversations with lots of brilliant people in the community across Reddit, crypto Twitter, Matrix, Telegram, and Discord. All of this felt really good and gave me a not renewed because it never left, but reinforced sense of confidence in the protocol, the mission, and the people behind it. These are good, friendly, smart people. At Ethereum's core, it's a bunch of nerds trying to build something interesting and important that works. It's fun to work on this stuff. It truly feels like these people are my friends, even though I haven't met any of them in real life. For someone that was born in 1981 and was on the internet in its early days on IRC, oh my gosh, in MUDs, on BBS, oh my gosh, and later in AOL, oh my gosh, I'm so old. Chat rooms, that's awesome. This is the same feeling, and I love it. Maybe the real generational wealth was the friends we made along the way. There you go. Yeah, gotta dial up the modem there. We're all aging ourselves. Hello on Twitter. Do you even know what this sound is? User Hanny Abu shares rated solo staker list has a new home. It's no better than Valentine's Day to announce rated solo staker list. And they found a new home at eStaker. You can visit the tweet on x.com. There you go. I'm going to go ahead and give this a retweet with the EV Mavericks handle. Very good. Taking care of business. eStaker's got a tweet also. There's also a blog post and a Reddit post. So they're going to be taking over maintenance of rated solo staker list. The full post for more details. Open up this, and there you have it. eStaker is proud to announce that we will be taking over maintenance of rated solo staker list. We believe identifying solo stakers is important for monitoring the health of the network and useful for second-order incentives such as airdrops. Rated recently published their last update to validator index 1.5 million. eStaker's first update is planned for July 1st, 2025 using Rated's methodology. After this point, we expect to update the list quarterly. The solo staker list will be published on the eStaker's GitHub. There you go. Excellent, excellent, excellent. How's that canvas coming home? I see the Maverick right there. Beautiful, beautiful. All right. Logri. Man, getting double-duted this week. Logri explains the mechanism behind what could be a new paradigm in decentralized stablecoin design. I'm going to get a drink real quick because this is going to be a read. I'll play sad trombone just for a second. There it is. Okay. That's not meant to mean anything other than I'm just wasting time. Wow, it looks like 97 people watching on X. Hello, world. If you haven't had a chance to follow us or retweet this, that would be great. Thank you. All right, and if you don't know who Logri the Bard is, you can follow him on X as well as on Reddit, user Logri the Bard. He's our second highest duder on our Ethereum, and if you're not on our Ethereum, you should be. Come back home. He's a duder 176. We'd love to see you there. A normal person, let's get back to the top. What could be a new paradigm in decentralized, here we go, decentralized stablecoin design. Fasten your seatbelts. A normal person investing in assets enters a position by buying the asset and then exits the position by selling the asset. Here in Web3, fewer of us every year qualify as normal. You see, market selling means you have to sell, which means you need liquidity to sell into. You are creating taxable events, etc. A less considered alternative to market selling is to buy a 1x short position somehow. If you hold both, then as the asset price rises, the famous crypto roller coaster along, the long would make money and the short would lose the same amount of money, or vice versa. The result is zero change, whatever your short is redeemable in. Monetarily, it's very similar to selling the position as long as you can exercise the put. A position that is not subject to price volatility is called, here it is, delta neutral. There's a few fun advantages to this, Logri continues. As mentioned above, it might allow you to defer a taxable event on the asset being sold until long-term capital gains would kick in which is useful even if the option comes at a premium. In addition to this, what if the token you would be selling was interest-bearing? By continuing to hold it, you could continue to collect interest. As long as the interest on the long exceeds the cost to borrow or premium on the put, you're now profiting from a carry trade. I wrote about a very different variety of a carry trade a few years ago, which may be worth revisiting to see how it has played out. There's a few other facts worth noting here as well. You can find that article at tokenomicsexplained.com. First, while I did say to buy a 1x short position, you're going to almost certainly use the long position as a collateral to borrow and create a 1x short position. This saves you from needing to come up with more capital. If you use a money market to execute the max short, you can walk away with the stable coins, but you probably can't actually get to a delta neutral position due to loan to value caps, LTV. This is still a nice option, but there are risks I talk about in the post linked above. Otherwise, you can use a variety of leverage platforms to get that LTV up to 100% and actually be delta neutral, but you won't be able to withdraw the stable coins. This brings me to the second useful fact. The cost to short crypto is usually less than the cost to long due to the industry being generally bullish over the years. Case in point, this is why that ICETH token is still making money years later. The fact is dead obvious if you're looking at the funding rates on perpetual swap platforms. When this line, and I'll open this up, when this line is above zero, it means you can get paid taking a short position. Okay, line above zero, good. All right. Combined, you are now in a position where you are making money on both the collateral and the short position of your delta neutral portfolio. That is just wild. So instead of selling your crypto, invoking a taxable event, and making stablecoin yield, you can instead enter a delta neutral position, forfeit any profit from price appreciation, but retain collateral plus funding rate yield while deferring a taxable event on the crypto collateral for as long as you like. An astute reader will be asking themselves, what is preventing someone from just buying crypto and entering such a position immediately from stablecoins? Nothing at all. You can do exactly that. If you do this with ETH, you are giving up the stablecoin yield, which is most likely sourced in some way from US Treasuries in exchange for staking plus funding rate yield. This can be advantageous in certain macro environments, such as when Fed interest rates are low, and it's a risk-on environment with a lot of demand for leverage, so the funding rates are high. Of course, someone has already tokenized this idea, so you don't have to manage the short position yourself and worry about brief fluctuations in the LST peg or funding rates. For a delta neutral position, the most natural denomination is in whatever you are delta neutral to. This is going to most commonly be USD, so the token wrapper around this position is a stable coin. This leads us to a new paradigm for stablecoin design. Consider stablecoin designs to date. How do they protect their peg in order to be stable? I see three basic mechanisms in play, of all which lead to problems constraining adoption. Redeemable reserves. These have the hardest peg, but are ultimately only as strong as the underlying asset they are redeemable for. Stablecoins such as USDC are backed by treasuries and redeemable for USD, so they are subject to government default control. Furthermore, Circle can just blacklist your address. Stablecoins backed by USDC such as Frax inherit this problem. LUSD/Bold are backed by redeemable ETH collateral, which leads to a hard peg, but the redemptions force borrowers to maintain terrible LTV ratios, which limits adoption. Number 2, dynamic rates. The USDC DAI and similar coins are all borrowed into existence. They retain their peg by manipulating supply and demand of the token using variable interest rates. This leads to two problems. First, the interest rates are usually subject to intervention, which is fallible. Second, the price experiences significant short-term depegs before interest rates changes can kick in and restore the peg over a matter of days or weeks. And finally, number 3, revenue. Tokens like ALUSD are backed by revenue from the collateral assets. This has proven to provide a relative weak peg, and we regularly see tokens like this multiple percents off their peg. This is not a hallmark of a stablecoin and obviously limits their adoption as a token to hold for stable value. Some tokens combine more than one of these approaches. For example, CRV or Curve USD combines both reserves and programmatic adjustments to interest rates. Contrast this with a stablecoin wrapping a delta neutral position, which I will call DNUSDC, which could be backed by any interest-bearing collateral, for which there is enough depth in options perpetuals markets for any like-kind asset. Logri continues. Number 1, unlike USDC, Circle can't blacklist an address. DNUSDC isn't derived from USD in any way. Therefore, the U.S. government default on U.S. Treasury bills or sees the underlying reserves. And number 2, there is no need for a DAO to set or manipulate rates. The only rates are the collateral rate and the funding rate, both of which are set by the wider market forces that are difficult to manipulate. Number 3, like LUSD, this should be redeemable for the underlying, but without the terrible UX to borrowers and LTV inefficiencies. This creates the necessary stability for adoption as a stablecoin. And finally, number 4, unlike borrowed stablecoins, which are limited to scale with the demand for leverage, DNUSD adds revenue from the collateral. This enables to scale beyond the zero funding rate line as far negative as the interest from the collateral. This is mathematically more scalable. So what started as a way to potentially defer a taxable event to reduce tax obligations led to potentially the best pattern we have seen for a truly decentralized stablecoin once we wrap the position in a token. That's actually rather profound. And that is coming to us this way by the number 2 duder on our Ethereum, Logri the Bard from tokenomicsexplained.com. If you want to follow his blog, it's right here, tokenomicsexplained.com. He's got all kinds of great posts, and he's one of our main contributors to the Daily Doots podcast, of which we have 119 people watching on X. Thanks for stopping by. Give it a like. Give us a comment. And what do you think about Logri's contributions? He's a Duder 176. And most importantly, stop by our Ethereum and join us in the daily thread. We're so back, baby. We're so back. Bringing it all home to mama. Get off X, get in the walled garden, have some fun with us. And be on X too. Who cares? Have fun. Wherever you are. All right. Boom.
You okay? Yeah, that was a long one.
I'm gonna get another drink. Logri, you're the man. I got my
I will say I just put out a blockchain superpowers blog post this week on Monday. So plenty of fresh content.
Blockchain superpowers. Oh yeah.
I think that we should probably get that one hosted over on like the EY conference or on Greenhill or something, right? I think it's that type of content.
Yeah, we were talking about maybe doing a video. I think it'd be fun. I just need time. But after Denver, maybe. Obviously.
Yep.
I think that'd be a lot of fun. I haven't made a video with like my own creative control for months, and I got the stuff. Let's do it. I'm in. Okay. Woo. How we doing? Chat, you doing okay? I always wanted to say that. I get to say that now that I'm like streaming on all these different platforms. We're on Twitch. You can find us twitch.tv/EV Mavericks. And we're needing some follows on LinkedIn. If you, I'll put this, let me put this on the chat on X, see if it pops up for you guys. And if you get a chance, you can give the deal with, the way I understand it on LinkedIn is you have to have something like 40 followers before you can stream. Well, we got more than 40 followers in the chat and out there on the interwebs. If you got a LinkedIn account, it would be great to have you. Yeah, Patricio, Darius, I see you on Twitter. Yeah, Patricio ducked out. He was with us for what, 45 minutes to an hour? Probably somewhere in there.
Over an hour.
He
was there until, yeah.
He told me in the back channel, he's like, hey, I got some questions for you. I haven't talked to you in a long time. I said, usually this part of the show's like 20 to 30 minutes. And he goes, I'm a talker. He's like, I hope you got an hour. I'm like, heck yeah, I got an hour. If you want to hang out with us for an hour, bud, you do it. You do it, Patricio. I know. I got you, man. He's such a gem. I always enjoy seeing him in real life and getting a chance to talk to him. I didn't realize, for those of you who may be just tuning in late in the show, Patricio hasn't done a podcast, he said, in years. So to be a featured guest on a podcast is super rare. And the fact that he chose us on our 100th episode, it just means the world to us. We were shooting for Vitalik. He didn't respond. And then Joe Lubin's assistant did respond. They politely declined. I think when you mention that you're from Reddit, they just kind of scurry away. That's fair. It's a fair assessment. You can do that with Redditors. I get it. All right. Let's move on. Moving on down the list, dailydoots.com if you want to check out what we're doing here. For those of you who don't know, we get all this content off of our Ethereum on Reddit. We have been now for our 100th episode. Every day we have somebody, Tricky Troll goes through the daily discussion. Like if you're looking at this site right here, on our Ethereum, we have a sticky at the top of the page, and it's just like comments after comments after comments. It reads like a newspaper. It's just that awesome. And we have this person, Tricky Troll, and in some cases, we have a substituter. But Tricky Troll gathers the top 10 things of the week, and her top 10 things of the day, and posts them at the top of the page. And then we have the A word that makes our weekly list, and that's how this show has been going on now for over a year now, at least. Right? 2 years. Wow. It's hard to believe. 100 episodes as of today. So, and this is our first time officially streaming to X. So it looks like we got a few people watching out there. It's so nice to have you guys tune in on X and let you know that our Ethereum is still alive and kicking. And it's only up and to the right from here, baby. Darius on X says, I met Patricio a few times at ETH Global events. He couldn't believe I was an ETC DeFi, like Ethereum Classic DeFi developer and advocate. That I hope that's the case. Ethereum Classic ETC. Maybe I'm misreading that. Very cool. Well, you met one of the nicest people in the world. That's for damn sure. Yeah, he's just a friendly person. Very good. moving on down the list for the Doots show, user Rhythm of ETH explains why Solana's TPS numbers are BS. Boom, boom, boom. And how by Solana's own fake metrics, Ethereum has even higher transactions per second. That's amazing. Apparently, people in the crypto community and RCC subreddit are catching up with the absurd numbers of Solana I've been posting here about on the last 2 months. Sorry. Okay, the grammar's a little funky. In summary, moving on, Solana inflates its reported transaction throughput and revenue metrics by including vote and compute budget transactions, which make up 90 to 95% of total transactions. These are not real user-initiated transactions, but rather validator votes and helper function transactions. So basically, it's boosting network activity. Of the peak 4,000 TPS we discussed last time, we usually discounted voting transactions, leaving us with around 1.2 thousand or 1,200 transactions per second or so. We also know that only 60% of those actually succeed, giving us 720 transactions per second. But guess what? 1 in 3 of those transactions would actually be considered transactions on Ethereum. Huh? 2/3 are actually validators paying other validators to vote on consensus and users setting transaction fees. So really, no actual end user transfer of value.
How dare you?
This puts Solana nowadays at roughly 250 transactions per second.
How dare you?
For reference, Ethereum L1 and L2s do 210 transactions per second nowadays, while being actually decentralized and censorship resistant.
I love it when a plan comes together.
And this has only been only revisiting the TPS numbers I had run before, but fee revenue is likely also impacted. Honestly, at this point, whoever thinks to bring up the damn 3-front war FUD from Bankless, they can be fully called out. DA is going to be one in 2025. What is DA, chat? DA is going to be one in 2025. Data, what is the word? Oh. Data availability, there it is. Data availability is going to be one in 2025. Execution layer was not even a challenge. And when your asset is the preferred crypto to use as collateral, moneyness is one. The only thing ETH is currently not good for is speculation and store of value in comparison to the appreciation of Bitcoin because different issuance models. For reference, the Ethereum network is already processing, let's see, okay. I want to look at this link here before I keep going. Yeah, okay, so it's just the link. As an aside, I want to keep going here. So let's do this. I'm going to read the response by Sandworm87, a duder number 1. I don't understand why it would be a stupid metric. Stupid and disingenuous for measuring real user activity, yes, but useful for measuring chain throughput? No, since presumably attestations still put a load on the chain. Or do Ethereum attestations not share the same bandwidth as user transactions where Solana votes do? Rhythm of ETH responds, good question. First of all, an aside, I'm not claiming one model or the other is better in terms of throughput. I'm basically trying to shed some light into the malicious and biased usage analytics shared by the Solana project. Regarding the question and assuming we aim to measure throughput, yes, Ethereum attestations share the same hardware and bandwidth because both clients, the execution and consensus plus validator, run next to each other in the nodes. But by separating channels of communication, Ethereum keeps the control channel separated from the data channel. It's a very common design pattern, probably next to encapsulating design patterns or the OSI stack. Ethereum is very conservative on the controlled channel, hence the confirmation delay on blocks. But by having this separated, you start from a reliable point, and you could build things like pre-confirmations, sharding, and tons of things that would be highly unpredictable if both types of traffic share the same channel. The roadmap of Ethereum is hence driven by features and efficiency, while Solana's is driven by how much hardware can be thrown into the validator set. In Solana, the sharing of channels allows validator-initiated transactions to gain preference over transactions, which expose normal users to censorship and malicious value extraction. And the post goes on from there. That is from the Daily General Discussion, February 17th. You can check it out on Reddit. You can get the quicker link at dailydoots.com and just go to today's show if you scroll down to the podcast. Uh-oh, a wild Paul Brody appears on Reddit. I like that. Paul Brody's a blockchain lead. Global. Don't forget the global blockchain lead for EY. I'm going to see him in Denver. I'm excited about that. Always a good time hanging out with Paul Brody. I would like to pull a comment from the other thread I saw online and address it here. Someone said they feel like Ethereum is dying on the inside. It is not. We are struggling with winning. Ethereum won, and I keep saying this, and I'm mystified as to why others don't see this. We won. Solana had its meme coin moment, and now it's over. I think Ethereum is having a hard time with that part about not being the underdogs anymore. We're not the underdogs. We're not revolutionaries. We're the establishment now. It's our job to steward this amazing ecosystem so it serves everyone, so that it stays decentralized and censorship resistant and monopoly resistant, and we don't consume ourselves with infighting and fragmentation. Next time you're tempted to complain about how bad things are, such as the price of ETH, put them in some context. The price of ETH is low because we were wildly successful at increasing capacity. Those low prices, combined with great security, are now luring in new waves of institutional buyers and users. That's my 2 USDC, 0.02 USDC. That's fancy speak for cents, if you didn't gather, but I'm explaining the obvious. Let's go ahead and get into this reply. Cypherpunk IRC 42069 replied, I have a problem with the above, and he's responding to Paul Brody. In my opinion, we are not winning. In reality, we are being captured. I remember the days when you used to do presentations about how private chains were never going to succeed, and the narrative was all about that there's no value in them, and the only value is in a public chain due to lack of interop. I completely agree with this argument, and private blockchains are of no use to anyone. However, with layer 2, we have essentially gone down that path, and each layer 2, in fact, is a private blockchain, an intranet. Of course, it's interoperable as it commits to the main chain as of now, but the value has still been captured by corporations, and the money generated from the machine goes to them. They also get to create the rules of operation on their chain and censor whoever they want. Yes, there can be a layer 1 escape hatches, but there does not have to be. I'm going to insert my 2 cents. That was the Sonium layer 2 blockchain that somebody did the escape hatch route to get back on mainnet Ethereum with their funds or do whatever they were doing. Okay, continuing on. You also develop protocols like Nightfall, which can be adopted by these chains to obfuscate and hide the transactions happening on them. I understand your argument that businesses need privacy, but how is this any better than the opaque world we live in today? The point of Ethereum is transparency. I love Ethereum with all my heart, but it's completely disingenuous to say we are winning. I want a fairer financial system. I want the unbanked to be banked without banks. I wanted a creator economy without advertising or middlemen to flourish. I wanted equality. This is not what is being talked about right now. What is being delivered is more middlemen operating private chains and collecting fees, MEV, or whatever for providing a cheaper service. It's not the Ethereum I imagined. It's not representing the ideals or cypherpunk values I fell in love with Ethereum because of. It's obvious that it's easier accounting and auditing as it can all be automated. I get why you think it's great. However, remember that there are people who built this space because they wanted a fair system, not a system where it was easier to track and trace, but yet hide if you're a business. I get we need layer 2 to scale, but we also need layer 2 to be transparent and for their revenues to fund public goods, not enrich their stake or bag holders. I get that we have large institutions looking at us now, but the idea was to have the large institutions being afraid of us and change how they operate. It was never to have a low price attract them so they could buy up and control it and earn stupid revenues and data collection from their own layer 2. Okay. I think the heart of the idea of the privacy amongst business is business to business transactions. Because like if you are Procter and Gamble and you're selling stuff to CVS Pharmacy and you're selling stuff to Walgreens, you guys can know the transactions happen, but you don't know the nature of the business. I mean, that would be like expecting people to just have all of their bank account transactions out and open in the public. That's not going to happen. That'll never happen. In fact, that's kind of like what makes crypto somewhat dangerous is that some of it is the lack of transparency or the lack of opaqueness in terms of personal privacy. Like, how do you simultaneously want to expect every business to be open and transparent on mainnet, perfectly out in the open for everybody to see, but then you want to still be able to obfuscate your own transactions because you don't want people knowing what your wallet addresses are, right? There's a business-to-business relationship that just has to have privacy. That's just nature of things. Because you don't, like, the terms of the contract, if CVS and Walgreens are going to be, buying stuff from Procter and Gamble, they may be getting stuff at different prices and, there's different deals being made. I think it's just basic business 101. The thing that I think Paul's driving at with some of the corporate stuff is just it makes accounting easier. You even mentioned that, right? Makes it faster, more automated. And when we got an AI agent world, staring us straight in the face, you got to have that zero knowledge stuff. You just do. Keeps people safe. I don't know if anybody wants to riff on that on Discord. All right, moving on down. That's good stuff, though. I appreciate you coming in and talking about it. Ooh, Edmund Edgar did. Well, I'll save this I'll move on. I'm going to move on because we're going pretty long and I've still got to upload all this stuff. Yeah, this is crazy. Yeah, good stuff, man. 162 viewers on X. I'm glad you're with us, hanging out. If you haven't had a chance, give us a little bit of a like and let us know how we're doing in the comments. Okay, Darius says on X, couple of things here. Darius on the X chat here. Cypherpunk guy gets it. This was in response to Paul. Says this guy gets it. ETH is not what ETH was sold to be. There's potential for a future crypto in something. Can't say which one, but anyone who takes 20 minutes to find what's a real blockchain will know what I mean. I don't get it. I think we kind of have the best of both worlds, right? There's going to be tooling for anybody to use. You can use Ethereum however you want. If you want to have this beautiful open ecosystem, well, it's there. You can use it for that. And then there's business interests as well. Can ride on. It's kind of like the internet, right? Yeah, I want to solve homelessness and world hunger and everything like that, but there's going to be different ways of doing that on the internet. There's no one perfect way to do it. Everybody's going to be using the internet to either do a GoFundMe or, vote for politicians to give people homes and food in terms of taxation or whatever. It's like the same ends to what you want, but maybe getting there is like anybody can choose their own road on Ethereum. There's not a one size fits all. We're not going to be guaranteed that this is the way things are going to be for the long term. All right. Yeah. 168 viewers on X. Good to have you with us. If you haven't had a chance, you should head over to the EV Mavericks Twitter handle here and get in the Discord. We have a stage I'm not the only one that talks on this podcast. I just am during this portion of the show, because by the time we get to this portion of the show, I'm like kind of reading the Reddit posts, and that's when like half of our audience takes a nap, and the other half is like real excited to be here and contributing to the show. If you haven't had a chance, get your Reddit account, fire off on our Ethereum. The Daily General Discussion is where all of these tidbits come from, and we aggregate the best of the week on dailydoots.com. All right, moving on down the list. Bergman's case brings us a Beam Chain update. Speaking of Beam Chain, we had Justin Drake on a couple of weeks ago or so. Okay, if you didn't like the name Beam Chain, now is the time to come up with some suggestions. Apparently the word beam is trademarked somehow. You got to be freaking kidding me. Beam is? Like Jim Beam, maybe? I don't know. Let's check this out. On X, it looks like we got, there it is, the man, the myth. Not even so much a myth. He's an actual legend, Justin Drake. Okay, so it looks like Beam is going to be changing names. Good. From Justin Drake's tweet, if you're interested, the Beam call number 1, there's a YouTube, the intro from the 8 new Beam teams, comments from 6 main CL teams, client teams, I guess, intros from 2 new EF coordinators. All right. Some say the most bullish thing for Ethereum is to be understood. I believe this applies to the guts of Ethereum L1 too. The Beam chain is a natural onboarding point for teams of devs who would appreciate every line of spec and every minute implementation detail. Beam call number 2 will focus on a technical progress, post-quantum signatures. Calls are open. DM me for a calendar invite. Apologies for withholding Beam updates on Twitter until now. I kept a low profile after receiving a cease and desist from a project that trademarked the word Beam. What? We need to move away. We need to move away from Beam, and I see this as an opportunity for more decentralized branding process. Please DM at Lattice Laos 0x with name suggestions. Zooming out, this is potentially the beginning of a multi-year mission to radically upgrade the foundations of Ethereum L1 and prepare it for decades to come. It's humbling to see a small army of builders rise to the occasion, and I can't be more pleased by the amount of social and technical progress in the few months since DevCon. Well done.
I don't know why it was ever beacon chain either. Like, I don't see what about the word beacons really reflected in the architecture or something, right? I don't know why Beam would have been reflected in the architecture. It's always kind of a weird word choice. I don't feel like they were losing very much other than a couple months of communication snafu rebranding, right?
Yeah. I think it's a pretty easy lift. I mean, if we can build a blockchain, we can pick a different name, and it looks like they're opening up their ability for other people to chime in on it. So that's good.
Might as well call it the snarky chain. Right?
Yeah,
like something that at least reflects the nature of the change inside of it and has some emetic to it, right? I hope someone can do better than what I just did, but nonetheless, I don't think we're losing very much with Beam because I just don't see how the word Beam reflects anything in the technology there. Yeah,
right. Yeah, I think they'll survive. I think they'll figure it out. Fizzless X is concerned about blob fees while user ethical trade makes the case in favor of exponential scaling through blobs despite the short-term fee revenue loss. Fizzless
every week. We talk about this every week.
Every week. Fizzless X is a Deuter number 4. Astafari 12 is in the conversation. Deuter number 32. Doomfuzz Slayer's in the conversation at 13. Let's see. There was another reply. Epic Trader, was that who got the shout out on this week? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Ethical Trade. Where are you at, Ethical Trade? Epic Trader's in there too. These are all people on Reddit. If you're not familiar, Edmund got into this too. There it is. Ethical Trade's all the way down here. Deuter 116. He's on the rich list for sure. Okay, so it goes on. Let me start back over. Fizzless X is concerned about blob fees While user ethical trade makes the case in favor of exponential scaling through blobs despite the short-term fee revenue loss. All right, Fizzless X kicks us off. Seeing blob fees coming back down from slight above nothing to effectively nothing one way right now is making me increasingly bearish on Ethereum's whole scaling plans. We are now 3.5 months at blob target, yet so far no noteworthy fees are being paid for it, indicating that there is simply not enough demand for Ethereum Layer 2 transactions to even sustainably fill the current limit. I've predicted back in October that we'd likely not see a lasting fee market for blobs until Pectra. Seeing this, unfortunately, more and more likely, time is running out. I predict that we won't see a lasting blob fee market until Fusaka either. And with the exponential scaling that comes with Fusaka and PeerDAS, we won't see a lasting blob fee market anytime soon after that either. So where does that leave us? No data availability income to be expected for the next few years at best? Can someone remind me why this is good again? I've always thought hard forking in a fixed blob market is targets. I'm sorry, let me redo that. I've always thought hard forking in fixed blob targets is a bad and hacky solution to begin with. The only thing we should fixate by consensus is the blob limit, but the blob target should be dynamic between 0 and blob limit and only grow or shrink when that target gets continuously exceeded in either direction, ensuring that appropriate L1 fees are paid. Same goes for the gas limit and target on L1 for that matter. User ethical trade responds.
Just obviously spoken by someone who's concerned about the price and thinks that the revenue from the blobs should be something that props up the Ethereum price, right? Like, underpinning this message, there's the meta argument, right?
That's the
We
meta.
need to fix the blob fee market so that we get more revenue, so that we can prop up the Ethereum price because my investment is suffering. And that's a fine argument, but can you explain the Bitcoin price, the Solana price, the XRP price, the Hedera price? Like, can you explain why this is not a concern for any other chain but Ethereum?
Yes. It's always the goalposts only matter for Ethereum, but for anything else, it's fine. Like XRP. Why?
I'm not saying we shouldn't be trying to improve Ethereum.
Sure.
That we should be able to talk about, like, the pricing market, or what you're saying at the end, where we could adjust the target based on some algorithm. Like, that's all great discussion. But just underlying the complaint about, oh no, my blob fees are down, is this notion that the revenue to the chain is what is determining the price. And if that was true, I gotta say, Solana, after the inflation from the token, is sharply negative. It's like net zero revenue, right? So is Bitcoin, for that matter, right? But they don't seem to have these goalposts to argue about and to divide them and make them critical of their own ecosystem. They just seem to carry on, onwards and upwards, rather than tearing themselves apart and putting the community in knots and shedding people over vitriol. So I let's see the response. I just wanted to add my 2 cents.
No, I appreciate it. Ethical trade response, quote, so where does that leave us, unquote. That leaves us with a platform that sends a message to the market. The message reads, quote, settle on Ethereum like Sony, Coinbase, Deutsche Bank, and Kraken do. It will cost close to nothing and you'll make tons of money, unquote. I believe that you're ignoring the part where several major institutions are currently building rollups that we don't even know about yet. Each institution is able to bring millions of users and will do the marketing for Ethereum, and many more are debating whether to do it or not. Had the blob market been saturated, management teams would have decided that Ethereum isn't the right choice for their plans. If I could snap my fingers and 100x the number of blobs, I'd do just that. Monetizing thousands of successful rollups will bring an incredible amount of revenue to Ethereum without being expensive for users. This is what Ethereum is being built for, not to make investors a quick buck at the expense of builders and users, and then the only true decentralized blockchain fails. There we go.
Yeah, so Vitalik had said that after PeerDOS, if we got up to that like 10,000 TPS number that Justin Drake was quoting when he was on here, right? That even at today's blob prices, even with sub-Gwei mainnet prices, we would still be burning about 700,000 ETH per year. So it's really just a matter of hitting that scale and then finding people to saturate it, even to the degree that people say it's way too low right now. It's not that the price is too low. It's that we don't have enough blobs at that price, right, to overcome the issuance of the chain. So there's separate discussions to lower the issuance of the chain. But again, I feel like we're quibbling over a percent inflation here when like Solana's inflation is way higher. XRP has no usage for the chain at all. Like literally goes offline and no one barely notices, right?
It's going to be the banking rails of the international banking system, don't you know?
So eventually, I don't know what our next narrative is going to be to pull attention back. I feel like we've gone through a lot over the 7 years I've been here, but something's going to pull the attention back to Ethereum. And then none of this is going to matter, right? Everything will look rosy and there will be whiplash of sentiment and up we go. It's just it's wild how there's such a huge double standard against what is the best chain in the ecosystem versus everything else out there, right? And no one has to question why they are going up. They only have to criticize why we are going down.
Oh yeah, biggest target, biggest target always gets the most flack. Yeah, very good. What we need is we need to bring back the ICO days.
I agree. Got a post I'm working on called to bring back ICOs.
Makes you wonder. I'm only half joking. If you did
I'm not joking at all.
Yeah, like if you did a legal, like just get the legal rails and the framework together and redo the ICO dates.
I want a little bit more than just regulatory clarity, though.
Sure.
I do think we'll get some of that. I also want fairer launches, better price discovery mechanisms for the ICO ratio against ETH or against USDC or whatever. And I want something like series raises, and I want governance over those raises. Just the equivalent of how angel investment funds have been running forever. You don't just have a startup and then give it $100 million and then say, well, cool, good luck. You want checkpoints of development, right? You want to stage that money out with achievable goals, with relatively achievable budgets for those goals. And the way we did ICOs wasn't like that. It was one big launch, and now some protocol like what was it, Golem ended up with some crazy amount of money.
Yeah.
Or what was there was a DEX that came
EOS.
before Uniswap, and a DEX that came before Uniswap that ended up with a ridiculous amount of money. It wasn't Shapeshift. It
wasn't Ether.
And then
Delta, was it? No.
I don't think so. But they got all this money, and then there was a couple years later, there was no market demand for the project. So they just canned it, right? Golem eventually became Octant, right? They just said, we've got a giant pile of money and no market demand for this. We'll just turn it into public goods. Maybe you should have raised 1% of what you raised, right? If you could have implemented it with something to discover there's no product market fit, and then decide that they were just going to can the project and keep all the money, right? So I'd like to see more than just regulatory clarity. I do want to see that as well, but I'd like to see something closer to how Series A to Z raises work in venture capital firms. I'd like to see more transparency and governance over when those tokens are released. I'd like to see more accountability for founders and other things that reduce the amount of scam and fraud associated with ICOs while still enabling basically crowdfunding from around the globe. Right?
Yeah, and shout out to Octant. They help power this podcast with the public goods funding. I mean, I'm so glad that they were able to kind of right the ship and find some use with the money. I think it's
they're being as honorable as
you can get,
expect from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but my point still stands. There are huge ICOs for products that never amounted to anything,
right?
And whether you want to call it a slow rug, or whether you just want to call it scam grift, or whether you want to call it just wrong team or wrong timing or whatever, Augur came up earlier this podcast, and people were like, "Oh my god, my poor Augur bags!" Right? It's like, well, they raised a lot of money. A lot of money. There's no way they spent that on their dev budget. And then they lost out to UMA, Chainlink. What's the prediction market? Polymarkets, right? Like those all could have easily been what Augur was. It's just a subjective consensus mechanism. But they ended up with hundreds of thousands of extra ETH, and where to go? Right? That's just a huge drain on the ecosystem. I wish they had staged it and gotten 10% of that in tranches every couple of years and had to stay hungry. When we had Kate on the podcast, right? She said one of the worst things you can do is give early stage founders too much money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I agree with that, and I think we should structure ICOs around that thought to stage, series raises for the idea with checkpoints, and basically have people judge over time whether the team has been honestly implementing that and keeping, make the team be more transparent about the development process, keep the community engaged, because you're going to need that community to vote for the next tranche of ICO tokens to fund your job, right? So that's where I would like to add some mechanisms, and I'm writing a post on that.
Excellent. Looking forward to it. Awesome. Got 195 views on x.com. If you're new to this channel, this is the Daily Doots podcast. We are on our 100th episode. We just recently started streaming onto X. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us on Discord. That's where our conversation takes place. We're also available on Apple, wherever you get your podcast, Spotify. I've even got a TikTok account brewing. We just need to get some more action on it, and then we'll be able to live stream from that in the near future if you're into that sort of thing. You can also find us on YouTube. Just search EV Mavericks, all one word. The EV Mavericks community is born on Reddit, on our Ethfinance, and now we have migrated and are in the daily general discussion. So if you got a Reddit account, we hope that you can drop by sometime and say hello. We'd love to have you there contributing. We get anywhere from 200 to 1,000 comments a day. Daily general discussion is always stickied at the second position on the top of the page. We've also got a tool produced by Hani Abu. It's called the Doots GitHub tool. You can find that link in the daily thread at the top here. We used to have one. There it is. Bookmarking this link. I thought we had the tool. Yeah, the Doots extension right here. If you get the Doots extension plugged in and you're on desktop old Reddit, something magic happens. You can see the people's names that have been dooted or made it to the top of our list on our daily list. So it's a community effort. The people who are on the Doots list that have these numbers next to their name are the people that get nominated over the course of time. This is our 100th episode. We've had over 1,000 days that have been tallied by Tricky Troll, one of our fellow moderators, and we're trying to illuminate the people that make Reddit Ethereum great, and we hope that you can join us. Back to dailydoots.com. Harog has an update on the Aztec protocol and their private roll-up. Harog's a banger. Duder 160. This is a very knowledgeable person. I attended yesterday's Aztec solo staking community call. For those who don't know, Aztec is a privacy-preserving ZK rollup on Ethereum, which uses their own programming language called Noir to be able to write privacy-preserving smart contracts. Overall, there was not too much information on the call, but here are some of the interesting points. Aztec is slowly preparing for their mainnet launch, maybe this year. They just established a nonprofit foundation in Switzerland, which does research, supports builders, and maintains the programming language. They will provide grants and ensure community involvement in decisions. There will be governance, which uses a hypothetical asset, Win token, wink, wink. They want to decentralize as much as possible. This means they want to have solo stakers involved in their rollup. As far as I understand, there are two kinds of nodes. Number one, validator nodes or sequencers. This can be run on consumer hardware at home. And number two, prover nodes. This is for specialized hardware in a data center. The exact hardware requirements are not defined yet. There was some discussion about high bandwidth requirements for node operators, but nothing is set in stone yet. At the moment, it sounds like if you struggle with bandwidth for a mainnet node already, you might not be able to participate as a node operator on Aztec. There will also be a stake you have to provide, but the exact amount and the rewards are also a work in progress. At the end of Q1, they plan to get the public testnet up and running. It will run on Sepolia. This might be a great opportunity to test the waters and see if it makes sense to run a node. At the moment, they have a permission devnet, so nothing to test yet as a node operator. They have docs about running a node, but they are very minimal at the moment. And you can find those docs at docs.aztec.network/run_node. I'm looking forward to have a privacy-preserving rollup to play around with. I love their emphasis on decentralization. I am not too familiar with their programming toolchain to judge what the barrier to entry is for devs. They have a Discord and other channels to keep up with their development, and that's available at Linktree Aztec Protocol. All right, very good, very good. Thank you, Harog. User Benito2030 decided to do a deep dive on Aztec. Wow, double banger for Aztec. Yesterday, Harog shared his update on Aztec. Aztec is a very important project, but because it is privacy focused, it works differently than other rollups. I had some questions, but we both weren't 100% sure how it works. So I've done some digging today, mainly using the official docs, and wanted to share my feelings or learnings with you. In Aztec, there is public and private state. As stated yesterday, I believe both public and private state is needed to allow for more than just transactions. For example, swaps, lending and borrowing, etc. Only if the balance of the two assets in an AMM is public, you know the price. If it was private, the swap can't be done. Only if the balance of an asset and the APY you want to borrow is public, you can actually borrow it. Why? Because only if the information is public, you as the user can create a valid ZK proof for these transactions. So how do private and public transactions work together? Private transactions are client-side only. What does that mean? The user starts a transaction, for example, sending ETH to a friend, and creates a ZK proof for it. If you interacted with Aztec 2 or 3 years ago, you might remember that back then transactions took some time. I believe back then it was the same thing. You first had to or have to create a ZK proof of the transaction, meaning you prove that you have the funds to send. That takes time because the creation of a ZK proof is still a lot of compute, at least compared to the non-ZK execution. Then send the ZK proof without any inputs, your own balance, your public key, the receiving public key to the public side of the rollup. In this case, to the Aztec node or sequencer. The sequencer includes your transaction in a block, and later that block is settled on Ethereum mainnet. So how does the receiver know that I sent them funds? Aztec uses a UTX model for that. With the ZK proof, the sender also creates a UTXO representing the funds. This UTXO is also forwarded to the sequencer for an inclusion in the rollup. It is encrypted, and only the receiver can decrypt it. If the receiver sees a UTXO for them, they can spend it by nullifying it, by proving ownership of it, nullifying it, and creating a new UTXO for the next recipient. So how can I do a private transaction that touches public state without revealing it as me? For example, swapping ETH for USD? Well, private transactions that trigger public functions like swaps on a DEX. The setup seems to be very familiar. You create a ZK proof on the client side that shows you have the funds to make the swap and what you should receive from the AMM. You send the ZK proof and the UTXO for the swap to the rollup nodes. The node's job is then to execute the public functions and to execute the swap, adding the UTXO balance to the pool and creating a new UTXO with the funds the initiator is supposed to receive. But the nodes create the UTXO and hence know who the receiver is? Well, this means it's not private anymore. Apparently, the UTXO is for an anonymous contract that is somehow controlled by your private address, so it is private indeed. So what's the role of the provers? The provers take all the transactions of the network, generate ZK proofs for them, and aggregate these proofs to include them in the rollup and settle them on Ethereum. P.S. I have no idea if this is correct. Most of the time, I have no idea what I'm doing, especially when it comes to tech and black magic. So please take this with a grain of salt. Yeah, I think you know a bit more than you think you.
Yeah, I think
Benito
that most people could have
2030.
written that, right?
What, dude? That is the biggest humble brag ever from that guy. He's teaching everybody, man. I mean, the Aztec protocol seemed it seemed complex. I was just trying to kind of figure it out as I was going along there.
I mean, conceptually, it's like you want to have your money in some like Tornado Cash while also being able to use DeFi. Okay, there's your like TLDR, right? How it goes about being able to do that is a very different thing.
Gotcha.
Very complex thing.
Gotcha. All right. Well, here we are. Last one of this week. We're at about 200 views on X right now. Welcome in. Glad you guys sat around with us and kicked around some doots for this day. We had a wonderful time. User Harog, a double weekly duder. Oh my gosh, this guy's on fire. Harog shares Treebeard's block visualizer app. Oh, Treebeard, your ears are burning. Treebeard and EV Maverick, follow him. Built an amazing emoji block visualizer. Every transaction is categorized and depicted with an emoji.
Just like a hobby project. Just like, I had an extra day.
Oh, shoot. We'll get there. We can see Uniswap trades, beacon deposits, contract creations, token transfers, NFT transfers, OpenSea sales, blob transactions, approvals, and uncategorized contract interactions. It's fascinating to see the activity in such a compact fashion. What is this magic? Oh my gosh. How cool is that? Okay, so it gives you a very different perspective on the chain activity and its actors. Have a look at emojiblocks.com, and I put it in the chat on X. It reminds me a bit of I remember Transaction Street visualization from way back when, but this is much more informative. I don't know if you guys remember this Transaction Street. It looks like little South Park characters. Okay, well, Treebeard's got this action going on. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I'll just zoom out just a little bit. But there you go. So these are the blocks that are being built, and all these emojis. It shows you if you just hover over them, you can see.
I'm always amazed by just how much of the chain is used for basic ETH transfers.
Yes.
Like,
there you go. Anything that's blue like that, that's an ETH transfer. Wow. Okay.
I almost never do basic ETH transfers. It's almost always smart contract calls. Like, is this just all DEX to DEX arbitrage that's happening, or sorry, sex to sex arbitrage that's happening? Like, you buy in one, sell in the other, and then you like swap your assets between your exchanges in order to settle it, right, and loop the arbitrage. I don't know, but I'm always amazed at, like, seriously, 25-50% of all blocks are basically ETH transfers.
If you want to follow Treebeard on X, it's _Treebeard, all one word, _. This dude, he's a moderator over on the EV Mavericks Discord. You need to follow this guy. He has 51 followers. Are you serious? He builds cool stuff.
He's got to remove the underscore from the beginning, man. I hate it when people do that. It's like it makes it so hard to search you. Like, X searching is horrible.
And people do that to impersonate people a lot too. So it actually looks less legitimate.
So
yeah,
I'm gonna.
When I search it, if I do _Treebeard, he doesn't even come up. It's like Chathina E, unless I'm spelling this wrong.
See, I unfolded him and he popped up.
You just have to dig through the EV Mavericks, basically to find him that way. It's not.
Oh no, he's got 2 underscores. He's got an underscore on either side.
On either side, yeah. Hey,
actually, he didn't come up. If you search _Treebeard, he legitimately does not come up. Even though without that other second, like this is like an X hack for anyone. Adding if you want to go invisible, add an underscore to your name, which I have one actually. I have an underscore at the end of B-Smokes. I should probably remove that somehow. Luckily, it's not in the beginning, so people can still find me. But
so someone made a list of Mavericks here. I put it on the X chat. I'll put it in the Dudes podcast channel as well for anybody that wants to follow. There's some of the people have either in this list maybe have sold their PFP or no longer like technically Mavericks. But somebody made a list on X, and there's about 200 Maverick people on there. If you're looking for people to follow, that's I tell you what, that is one shining thing about this Ethereum Reddit community and the EV Mavericks NFTs. Like something I hear from people externally, they'll be like, "Oh, you got that Lion PFP." You know, where'd they come from? Like a lot of people don't know. I'm like, well, we're just all Reddit nerds. But then they also follow up with like, most of the time those guys have their head on their shoulders and they're really intelligent. And as you can see, even from this
Our community with no gatekeeping, it's surprising, right?
Yeah. It's an NFT community with like literally no gatekeeping. There might be one or two channels.
We can just buy it and have one, and
yeah.
So it's kind of weird that we keep such a high alpha, signal to noise ratio.
Yeah. So if you haven't followed a bunch of Mavericks on X and you're interested in Ethereum, those are generally the tribe. And, they're not all maxis too. That's the other thing. I mean, you could tell even on this podcast, we illuminated some things about Ethereum shortcomings and like, things that are kind of difficult to, embrace and the struggles. But, as Logri said, if we don't apply those, criticisms to other chains equally. We're self-deprecating, man, and we like it. All right. Well, I think we're done for today. We're live on Twitch right now. We're live on X, live on YouTube. I think everything is working pretty good. Give us a thumbs up. Throw us a comment in the chat. Let us know what we can improve on. Would you like? Would you not like? There's nothing to not like. Patricio Worthalter was here for our 100th episode. This has been over a 2-hour podcast. So if you haven't had a chance, make sure you subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Apple, Libsyn, Spotify. And follow us on YouTube, X, TikTok, Twitch, LinkedIn. We're really trying to open up the doors and let the world know about our Ethereum community, the Ethfinance Daily General Discussion each and every day, and of course, dailydoots.com. Well, big thanks to Tricky Troll for capturing those Daily Doots. A word for the weekly list. Hanny Abu for helping out. B Smokes, fellow moderator on our Ethereum. Thanks to Logri the Bard for being a technical interviewer and hanging out with us today as well. And we hope you give us a follow and a like and all that good stuff, man. Well, that's all I got. If you know somebody that wants a piece of this action, send them my way. I'd love to get them on the podcast. Let's talk. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to sign off for now. If you want to come hang out with us on Discord for another hour of popcorn, you can do that. It's a fun place to let loose when the parents aren't watching on YouTube. Hi, Mom. On behalf of Ethfinance Daily General Discussion on our Ethereum and the EV Mavericks DAO, my name is JT. Cheers and big hugs from Kansas City.